Cheers.
Hello, welcome to Two Piano Tuesday. It is Tuesday, May 9th here in the United States. It might be Wednesday wherever you're tuning in, but in any case, we are so excited to welcome you to the series finale of Backstage at Cliburn 2022. We are your hosts, Elizabeth Joy Roe
and Greg Anderson. We are so excited for today's episode. We have so much wonderful content to share about Yunchan Lim, the gold medalist of the 2022 Cliburn competition. He was 18 years old at the time. He's 19 years old now. He hails from South Korea, and he instantly became an international sensation for his performances in this competition. They went viral, and presenters were clamoring to book him.
That's right. Speaking of presenters, Yunchan is currently in New York City. Tomorrow through Friday, he will be performing with the New York Philharmonic under the baton of James Gaffigan with what has become his signature piece, the Rachmaninoff Third Piano Concerto. So we are feeling the excitement over here, and we are going to celebrate the historic performances he gave at the Cliburn last summer. Plus, we have all sorts of interview footage that you've never seen before, plus other insights from various interviews across the internet. He is such a fascinating human being. We can't believe he's only 19 years old because he is certainly an old soul on stage and off.
That's right. And the Cliburn webcast team produces so much material for these webcasts, and much of it they're unable to show. And so we were able to sort through all of this extra footage for today's episodes, and it really paints a gorgeous portrait of this young man. We're so excited to show them, and we're so excited that you're all here with us today. Thank you for joining us. We love all the comments coming in, pouring in, and we'll feature some of yours throughout the episode as we continue.
Yes, and one final note before we dive into our content. This is a special 90-minute episode. Greg and I we fell in love with his story, with his soul, with his artistry, that it was impossible to fit all the content within a single hour. So get in, strap your seatbelts, and let's all share the Yunchan fandom together.
We're going to start by acknowledging that the two of us are absolute fans of Yunchan. There's like no hiding it. No. He's a once in a lifetime artist. I keep saying to my friends, it's like as if Mozart or Beethoven or Rembrandt or Shakespeare were here today alive and living among us. And the two of us, when interviewing him, were often left at a loss for words, as you'll see here.
The translator will stand here. You're so good. Congratulations. That was incredible. Sublime. And I'm trying to think of the right words. I'm so speechless that we could listen to you play all day long.
You just create such, beautiful and delightful sounds. It's just full of so much life and surprise and you have so much to say as an artist. It is an honor to hear you.
I'm speechless.
Are you all ready? Okay, so we're going to start out just if you could introduce yourself, just with your name, where you're from, and your age.
My name is Yunchan Lim, and I'm from South Korea, and I'm 18 years old.
Here he comes to the stage, Yunchan Lim of South Korea.
So Yunchan began the competition by performing the commissioned work by Sir Stephen Huff. The piece was performed by all 30 competitors, and of course, he won the award for the best performance of this piece, though we didn't find that out for another 2 weeks after the performance. Essentially, he won an award for the first 5 minutes of his participation in the competition. You can note how he really seems to work to find his composure and concentration before starting.
When I play this piece, I feel very cheerful, and this piece is very outstanding and very challenging for every pianist.
Did it take you a long time to learn it?
I spent maybe 3 days.
Did you choose a piano today? Have you already done that?
Yes.
Which one did you like?
I choose Hamburg Steinway because Hamburg Steinway's sound is very outstanding and very beautiful.
So the Cliburn backstage sometimes feels like a chaotic zoo, but I remember stopping to listen to Yunchan's Mozart and being completely blown away. I mean, the level of care and detail is just phenomenal. He cares for the music on every level. It's like a painter with 100 brushes and 1,000,000 colors at his disposal, or like finally getting the right prescription for your glasses and seeing clearly for the first time. You take a microscope to his playing and you're bound to find you.
Mozart is very difficult, but Mozart's melody is very touching for me.
Yes.
His opera arias, Papageno or anything else.
Do you like playing Mozart more than you like playing Haydn?
I prefer Mozart because Mozart's melody is more friendly for me. Haydn is still difficult for me.
I love that he's inspired by Mozart's opera music, because that's exactly what all of our great teachers have exhorted to be inspired by Mozart's vocal stylings and the phrasing and the singing quality. His tone is so beautiful.
And you hear it right there. He shapes everything with such glory.
So natural too.
Yeah. Right here, watch. She's going to repeat the same figure 6 times and make it feel completely organic. And watch. He's going to conduct his way through this cadenza.
You know, you mentioned Shakespeare. It's like a great actor on stage. The way they
This
breathe.
variation makes me heart shake.
I think it's so adorable, and it's so clever of him to program the Chopin variations on a theme by Mozart immediately after performing a Mozart sonata.
And it was this piece that inspired Robert Schumann to say to Chopin, hats off, a genius. We think the same could be said about Yunchan.
Oh, absolutely. Hats off, gentlemen, a genius.
Chapeau.
Congratulations. You just competed in the Cliburn competition. How do you feel right now?
I feel very good. I was trying to improvise on stage, so I very enjoyed.
Yes. What do you think when you're on stage? What do you think about?
I'm trying to think about nothing.
So pure.
Yes, and just calm down. That's all.
Do you get nervous when you play?
Oh, yes.
Yes, okay. If you make it to the next round, will you celebrate tonight or will you practice tonight?
I will practice.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And bravo. 감사합니다.
Oh, did he practice?
Yeah, right. I have to confess that I really didn't know what to expect when I first met Yunchan. As interviewers for the competition, we really didn't want to do anything that might alarm or upset any of the competitors. And he seemed so sweet and shy and maybe a little uncomfortable. So I kept things short in the first round interview. We eventually go into more details with her in the subsequent emails or subsequent interviews, excuse me.
But I do think you were also overwhelmed by what you
Yeah.
had just heard. And I have proof of this. So Greg and I missed this interview because I was at home taking care of my baby and the days were so long. So we would sometimes switch off with the preliminary interviews. And Greg, we were texting throughout and Greg sent me a text and he called it. He said, I think
Oops, not that.
Yes, he said, Yunchan Lim might actually win the thing. This is dated from June 4, I believe.
Yeah.
The preliminary round right after he played. So let it be known that Greg was psychic. No, he just, he have very, I think you saw his talent just shine through from that performance. It was especially the Mozart.
Oh, especially that Mozart. I mean, I thought about that Mozart ever since it happened. It's just so beautiful. It's so incredible. And I only recently, just preparing for editing together today's episode, I looked at some of the original live stream comments during the Mozart, and many people adored his playing at the time, but I was shocked to see the number of people commenting on how simple or easy his program was. I screen capped just a couple of these comments. Mozart is easy technically, but I agree, did not perform hard enough repertoire. The music's not challenging enough for this competition. If somebody were to play Rock Second or Petrushka, I mean, it just is like, really? Mozart's music is not easy. And I think that's maybe why I was so genuinely impressed by his playing. I mean, it's I love Mozart's music, perhaps more than any other. And Liz and I, we have an album devoted to Mozart's music, but I recognize how difficult it is, and yet how easy he was able to make it sound. I think it's almost a testament to his quality and craftsmanship that people were commenting that it was almost too easy.
Sure, any intermediate player can play the notes, but Yunchan creates art. It flows so effortlessly and with such, we keep saying, organic, natural. That takes a ton of work. And so, it's no cakewalk. And we only saw a couple of other contestants program solo Mozart in their recital programs, because that's how intimidating Mozart's music is to a professional.
And if you watch our third episode, we have a whole vignette devoted to the competitors, the semifinalists, talking about how difficult the Mozart concertos are. We actually heard through the grapevine that preparing for the preliminary round, Yunchan did practice the Mozart sonata more than any of the other pieces, and he would record himself and he would sing himself and he would share things with his teacher and really, really work on it. And it's not an example of a prodigy just tossing things off. I think he really devoted himself to the performance, to making it as beautiful as it was.
He is a devotee of the craft. He takes the process so seriously. So what you see on stage is the result of not only hard work and long hours, but intentional work.
Yes. Well, you heard him mention that he was thinking about nothing, or he was aiming to think about nothing during the first round. He was not the only competitor to say something of that sort. And we have a short vignette to share with you about the other competitors talking about the same thing. Here we go.
What do you think when you're on stage? What do you think about?
I'm trying to think about nothing.
It's basically I just try not to think much because everything is in this muscle memory already. So I mean, sometimes when you think too much, it creates problems. So I just let my finger do the job.
What do you think about when you perform a piece like that?
I don't think, I just listen what I play. I just think in what I play. And
you have to have insane focus to get through it, and you did.
None of the focus. That's the trick.
Yes. That's true.
So when you play this stuff, you just try to stare in one point and to not think, because once you try to analyze what to play, you're out.
That's the key. This idea of analyzing what you're doing on stage can actually detract from your performance. And so the reason that Yunchan and all of these pianists work so hard in the practice room is that so you can plan your interpretation, your, this is exactly, here are the possibilities I want to have at my fingertips or at my disposal in a performance. You want to give yourself all the options. You want to think about everything very thoroughly so that when you're on stage, you're free, you let it go, and free to be present. Because actually when you're in that left brain, you're not totally listening and you're not totally engaging with what is happening in the now. I mean, it's actually it's a very almost like Zen kind of practice, I personally have benefited from just feeling like I'm allowing the performance just to kind of come together. And that's not to say that I'm zoned out. If anything, I'm even more immersed, but I'm not sort of distracted by all the machinations of the mind.
Exactly. And we're going to actually discuss this even more a little later on when Yunchan describes what he means by improvising on stage, because I think they're very related. But now let's start the quarterfinal segment. So Yunchan's precision, coloring, and freedom are almost overwhelming. It's just being so utterly exquisite. And what I admire most about his Bach playing, he's been doing a lot in his recent solo recitals, is this almost like godlike nirvana state he reaches. It's like he's able to see every single note's past, present, and future, how each note reacts to everything that came before it, how it will influence the rest of the piece, how it will blend with and affect all the other notes played simultaneously. To me, it's like it's like a superhero with this like uncanny ability to sit back and have a wisdom of everything going on. Here he's about to play the Beethoven variations in the quarterfinal round, and watch. Deliberate, immediate start.
Mm-hmm. The Eroica variations.
So there were 388 applicants to the 2022 Cliburn competition, and 72 were invited to perform a live screening audition. Most performed a handful of works during this round to showcase the different sides of their artistry, but Yunchan was one of only 2 to perform a single work. It's like, I just think that's so extremely gutsy and bold. But after hearing him play, again, here in the competition, I can see why he did it.
I mean, talk about having a certain sense of confidence at this young age, you know? He believes in his interpretation. And, you know, you talked earlier about him conducting Mozart. That sensibility comes through so powerfully with this. You know, he's like, it's like he knows the orchestral sensibility of these variations, and he's orchestrating the colors and the layering of all the voices.
Exactly. And he has this level of metric solidity that is unheard of. He sets each beat right in the pocket with a heft that never drags, and certainly it's never early or rushing. It's not to say it's metronomic, it's very free, but the timing always just feels so right to me. And I suspect that's why the orchestra did such a great job aligning with him.
And you know, that sort of in the pocket timing is all the more difficult when you're nervous.
Right?
And he's told you later that he was nervous during this round. You can't tell at all.
No, you can't. And of course, his amazing programming continues. He began his program with the Bach fugue, and he ends it here with the fugue at the end of Beethoven's Eroica Variations.
You put so much care and beauty to every note you play. Where does that come from?
I don't know.
Do you want to try speaking in Korean?
Oh, no.
No, okay.
Real, I don't know.
You don't know? It's magic. How do you pick the pieces that you played? The Bach was an interesting but smart choice.
My teacher says yes, and this Bach is very rare piece. So people don't play this Bach, so I play this.
How did you decide to end with the Beethoven?
Because variation is my favorite music genre.
Really? Oh.
So in first round, I played Chopin variation last. So in this round, I played variation last too.
Did today's performance feel the same or different than the first performance for you?
Very different, but because today I was very nervous, but in first round I maybe didn't nervous.
Yeah, okay.
So very different.
Do you have a memory that sticks out from the first part of the competition?
I was so nervous, so I didn't remember.
Sure, just kind of blacked out. Yeah. Okay.
So, Piano Professional magazine asks, how do you deal with being nervous?
Yunchan responds, the Earth is a planet smaller than dust in an endless universe. In fact, the world may even be a simulation in which everything is fake and someone is manipulating it. Playing the piano is really hard to do under stress, but it is actually nothing compared to the vast universe. I feel more comfortable when I think that I'm smaller than the dust in the universe. And then another question goes, is there something specific you are nervous about?
And Yunchan answers, I'm nervous and afraid that I can't express my music properly. So that is the hardest and most painful for me.
Yeah, a viewer on YouTube says philosophy. He's a philosopher.
Yeah.
He's like a poet philosopher, someone who is not quite of this world. He thinks of everything so cosmically. It's almost surreal how he sort of pictures himself. And there's also this radical humility with that, right? He's not centering the performance and the interpretation around himself, but it is more that he's channeling the forces of the universe. Or you know, when he answered, you asked him, where does all that come from, all the brilliance? And he says, I don't know. I thought that was such an honest and charming and revealing answer, because it's almost like God or something, some force that is larger than he can understand is being channeled through his fingers and his mind.
It's just it's mind-blowing to me that he's 18 and thinking about the world this way. And but it's just it's so obviously is paying off. Like if he's again, I like mentioned this superhero. It's like he's able to channel the universe and throw it back at you in like this overwhelming way, which ends up feeling like he's a superstar, even if he's introverted and nervous. It's that like humility, just like conquering all.
Well, and it reminds me in a way poignantly of his youth, because even though there is this sage quality to his affect and his words, there's this beautiful, unaffected idealism that youngsters have, right? And it's like he's not jaded by the world, and I think that purity comes through his playing.
Well, up next, we have the package regarding his semifinal round recital. Here we go.
If you advance to the semifinals, and we really hope you do, what are you looking forward to the most?
My solo recital, because I like performance in front of audience. So I am very looking forward.
We will hear shortly these etudes from Yunchan Lim. Here he comes now onto the stage, 18-year-old Yunchan Lim from South Korea.
I'm going to share a link to the entire performance.
He cuts off the applause.
The fact that he programmed this entire set is already just miraculous. And I know a number of people who questioned the decision, thinking it was too one-dimensional, but I think he was programming in the spirit of the entire competition as a whole.
And Yunchan has the ability. What were your favorite places to play at the competition?
What set my soul on fire in this competition was the list I played in the semifinal.
What I was saying earlier is that Yunchan can take something that might seem one-dimensional and create the most multi-dimensional, nuanced, virtuosic, awe-inspiring interpretation.
Yes, I mean, he took the character of each of these 12 etudes and pushed them to the extreme. Here we have Mazeppa, a piece about a wild race on a horse. In the middle of the night, a man's tied naked to the horse, and the horse galloping through the night. And it's just terrifying. And he gives it this muscular performance that's just riveting. And right here, we watch as the horse ultimately collapses, and it just feels cataclysmic in Yunchan's hands.
Chills.
And this is the same person who played the Mozart so beautifully. Yunchan actually quoted that when he actually practiced this piece and these pieces, he regretted it because it was the most difficult piece he had ever played. His teacher said, "It is impossible, but you have to make a miracle." And a miracle he made.
What's so remarkable about his treatment of the whole is that it holds together like so breathtakingly well. You know, you're at the edge of your seat from the first etude to the end, but also each etude is a perfect reflection of, you know, the original poetic inspiration list. It either has some image, some literary kind of reference, and it's like he's painting these little portraits, these little tableaus that come across, so each sparkles on its own little gem.
Here's Faux Poulet played as if it's like easy. It's so notoriously difficult. I just get giggles because it's like, wow, I love the ending.
I love how he brought the drama to this round. It felt theatrical.
Absolutely. So manic, so joyful, so colorful, and you can see he's actually really enjoying himself here. Here is one of those, I don't know, it's like musical swells where Yunchan grabs the wave and just goes for it. He has the technique to make it happen. Still falling forward. I'm nervous that people are going to try and imitate them, but we're going to hear a lot of banging instead. That sort of immense vision and pianistic volume that he adds just won't work without his intelligence and squeak. Here he finally takes like a real break before going on.
I mean, everyone needs to watch this entire performance later because it's a marvel. This round was the moment where I was like, there's something inhuman about this person.
I love that he's willing to just make the audience wait. And you just sit at the edge of your seat waiting for it because it's so delicious. And yes, Liz, I totally agree. This round, like, just kind of changed everything.
It was like a turning point.
Has such a huge conception of what the music can be. I mean, he's really taking the name of this set to heart. It's transcendental.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it transcends an etude. It's not just about the technique. It's about these universes he's creating.
Every chord is voiced so perfectly.
What inspired you to program the Transcendental Etudes? Because it's very 힘들어, very tiring, very difficult.
My teacher's teacher, Mr. Roger Schumann, plays this piece because. So I played this piece because this music is epic of music.
말년 수정 수정
I'm sorry. 죄송해요.
Bravo, Yunchan. 축하합니다. That was so phenomenal.
That was electrifying.
We were so impressed by your performance. How are you feeling?
I feel very good.
You should feel good.
I was very nervous, but I played my heart out, and I played for Artists in the Sky, for my favorite pianist and conductor.
Who is that?
Maybe Carlos Cliburn and Sopranitsky.
Oh,
wow. Great.
You have such good taste. I love those artists. So you were playing for them, your inspiration.
Where do you find all of that energy?
My favorite pianist and my friends and my teacher.
How do you physically deal with the challenges of the competition? Like, do you try to sleep a lot? Are you like, do you have your favorite snacks? What do you do away from the piano?
Took a nap and drink water.
Pretty simple, yeah. Okay, and then you can play the transcendental etudes perfectly.
That's the secret, huh? How much do you practice? I mean, do you practice 12 hours each day?
Maybe all day. Maybe 12 hours.
Wow. So
maybe
a lot of work, especially for this competition.
Yes.
A lot of repertoire.
We could listen to you play all day long, so we are very excited to hear you again throughout the competition.
Yes. Bravo.
Bravo.
Amazing job.
Yes.
축하합니다. Thank you. 감사합니다. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Selfie. Stand in front of this bag right here. Oh, yeah, great. To yourself. Wait, that's the wrong way.
Pianists from the past didn't have the internet. I believe their work was more creative and unique as they found their own music by delving deep into music scores in themselves. I myself have sometimes unconsciously followed other pianist styles because I hear it on things like YouTube, but I think that's the wrong way. I think I need to do things the way pianists did in the past.
We have just a couple clips to share of Carlos Cliburn and Vladimir Sopranitsky, two of the people Yunchan mentioned. In the interview, Carlos Cliburn was one of the great conductors from the 1900s, and he achieved like a mystical reputation for his remarkable vision as a conductor. He pushed orchestras extremely hard, attempting, I guess, to reach the stars.
But I love how Yunchan's influenced by these great artists of the past because they were not concerned about accuracy or kind of sounding like anybody else. They had a very personal take on music, on interpretation. And, you know, there was a uniqueness and an integrity to their artistry.
Well, and they didn't have the ability to edit audio as the way we do we do now, and so I think they really focused on the live performance and their individual personality rather than perfection in the way we kind of are accustomed to expecting today. Sofronisky was another great from the early 1900s.
옛날 예술가들도 보면 항상 그 주위에 위대한 예술가 친구들이 있었기 때문에 그 예술가가 빛을 볼 수 있었다고 생각을 해서 제 친구들도 저에게 굉장한 영향을 줬어요.
So you go to Korea National University now. Are all of your friends pianists?
Oh no, I have cellist friends and singer and painter.
Painters.
And flutist.
Lots of artists.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that you help each other with your art?
Yes. Friends is, I think, most important for inspiring me.
Yeah, that's really nice.
I would like to know what a couple of highlights have been for you here. For instance, did you make new friends with some of the other pianists? Did you taste new foods or see new sights?
없었던 이유는 제가 하루에 거의 12시간씩 연습을 했기 때문에 어디 돌아다니거나 음식을 맛볼 기회는 없었던 게 사실이긴 하지만 굉장히 제 호스트 패밀리한테 고마웠던 점은 제가 새벽 4시까지 연습을 해도 주무셔야 하는데 괜찮다고 항상 하시고 제가 연습하면 제 연습 한국에서는 제 아파트에 살기 때문에 새벽 4시까지 하면 큰일 나기 때문에 그게 가장 큰 하이라이트.
Every week, as we did new pieces, I could see how he immerses himself into music, how he's always eager to try new things. I'm just surprised to see genuine freedom. The power of music can come from training by yourself in a small practice room.
In an interview with the Counterpoints, Yunchan states, "I think the most beautiful moment to taste music is when a musician practices in the practice room. The artist's practice room is a space that creates various universes, and you can see the frustration and joy of making great music through many attempts." Then in the Piano Professional magazine, they ask, "Any practice routines?"
Yunchan says, "It usually starts at 2 p.m. and ends at 2 a.m. I don't always concentrate." And another question goes, "What do you enjoy most when practicing?"
And Yunchan says, "When music finally recognizes my heart and expresses it in real life as I want." Always, everything that he says makes my heart melt.
Yeah, and you know, there's a difference between what he's saying because, you know, you picture someone just being stuck in a practice room and it being sort of soulless and, you know, they're just kind of going at it and trying to, you know, aim for this kind of empty perfection. I get the impression that he almost has this monastic kind of devotion to his art, and it's there where he can really commune with the muse, so to speak. And so it's not about divorcing himself from humanity. I mean, he talks about his friends in such a beautiful way. Clearly they inspire him, and he has this ability to connect with humanity through his friends, and that's, you know, so touching. But it's almost like he needs to kind of sequester himself from all the mundanities of life and just immerse himself in the absolute profundity of the music, that he plays. It's this totally old soul sensibility. Like, I can see him in some like artist commune in the 19th century, like with these other great like artists of the intelligentsia. Like, I think that's what really inspires him, not so much like, oh, I'm gonna like go, be on social
Work.
media or whatever,
Or
it's sort of like, it's a very pure and focused livelihood.
I mean, it seems almost spiritual to me, like being in a monastery where you deliberately cut off parts of the world so that you have a chance to be peaceful and commune with God. And it's just, it's so touchy.
It's really moving, yeah.
All of it.
And rare.
Yeah, especially in today's world. And inspiring too. We should move on to the second half of the semifinal round, which was the Mozart Concerto. And it's once again another brilliant performance by Yunchan Lim. Here we go.
How do you feel about the Mozart Concerto, which is coming up?
I need to practice.
Have you played Mozart before?
Oh, yes. Maybe 3 times in Korea.
Are you going to change it at all for this performance?
A little bit changed. Maybe interpretation, voicing, and phrasing. 이 곡을 연주할 때 저는 어린 왕자를 생각하게 되는데, 그 이유는 어린 왕자의 순수한 기운과 어린 왕자의 그런 이미지가 이 협주곡과 굉장히 닮아있다고 생각해서.
There's just something so well-rounded about him. He talks about practicing for 12 hours a day, but yet he's read The Little Prince and Dante's Divine Comedy, which he talks about in interviews. He's clearly interested in orchestral repertoire, and his artist friends are so important to him. He's not just practicing.
And it was in this piece that I saw you cry. The second movement, you were watching backstage and you were moved to tears. It was divine.
He's moved me to tears many times.
But yeah, how charming to make that association with The Little Prince, Le Petit Prince. It's like, who thinks about music that way? He's always finding these poetic associations.
Can you remind our audience who composed those cadenzas?
Edwin Fischer, my favorite Mozart interpreter.
How did you choose Edwin Fischer's?
My teacher prepared for me. When I listen Fischer's cadenza, I feel blown away. So I choose Fischer's cadenza.
We were blown away too. So many surprises.
Can you tell us a little bit about your teacher? What are your lessons like?
His lesson always inspire me about improvise and about character.
He pushes you to play as if you are improvising, even though the notes are written down. Is that?
Yes.
And did you, growing up, does anyone in your family play piano, or you're the only pianist? What are your earliest memories of the piano, and what attracted you to play the piano when you were a child?
When I was maybe 9 years old, I started piano very seriously. During the practice, I improvise for myself, Paganini theme,
Yes.
or anything. Just improvise.
Yeah.
And I very enjoyed this work. So that helps me now playing.
You can tell.
Yeah, you can tell.
Well, you play every genre, every musical style so convincingly, and you have so much to say as an artist. It is an honor to hear you.
Thank you so much.
감사합니다. Good luck. 축하합니다. Bravo.
So the counterpoint asks, people have noticed a breath of freshness, a certain unbridled freedom you attack pieces with. Do you take chances when you are on stage?
And Yunchan responds, I think every pianist can improvise. In fact, Horowitz and Rachmaninoff admired Art Tatum, and Liszt was also a master of improvisation. If you just do what you've practiced, it causes tension and you lose many possibilities on stage.
And I really love this whole idea of improvising while playing classical music on stage. And of course, improvisation comes in different forms. There's the sort where you make music up on the spot, like Yunchan said he did as a child with that Paganini theme. But you can also improvise cadenzas or ornamentation, or, as I think he's mostly talking about, you can improvise interpretations. And we were talking earlier about being present and reacting to the music. And I think that's really where the genius of this improvisation lies. I mean, Liz, you and I often talk about reacting and being spontaneous to the acoustics and the piano and the audience and our moods and the environment. But honestly, I've been thinking about this. Honestly, I bet half of what we're reacting to is our own failures. Like, honestly, we're one of the most unpredictable elements in the whole equation as human beings. It's like, oh shoot, that didn't happen the way I wanted, or I meant to play that louder, or oh no, I missed that note, or miscalculated the bass on this piano. But the real pro can react to all of that. They can improvise with the mess that life is. They can be totally present. They can be the best listener. They can be the most flexible, and they can be the most responsible to the needs of the moment. And it's that when you see improvisation at its finest. It's like this compassion to yourself that is willing to love your weaknesses rather than fight them. And Yunchan is that sort of pro.
But also it's this, it's this idea that you're honoring life. You mentioned life. It's so unexpected. There's so many twists and turns, and you're reflecting that through music that, it's not just, a robot. You can plug in all the notes and, MIDI player can play it, but it's not music. The soul is lost. And when you're working in the practice room, you want to give yourself the freedom on stage to express what you are feeling in that moment, or what the composer might have wanted to express. And that is the joy of improvisation, and any great artist in any genre. So it's not just jazz pianists, but you think about a great dancer, a great thespian. There's something, there's this kind of electricity that's a little bit like the sense of risk. It's something that's a little unexpected that sparks the art. And but you have to be prepared to catch those moments of inspiration. Like you need that foundation of preparation. So when you practice the improvisation, that's what you're folding in to the performance.
It's so beautiful. And speaking of improvisation in life, here's Wallace. One of my two cats just jumped into my arms. Thank you. I'd love having you here too.
Also a Yunchan fan.
Also, definitely a Yunchan fan. We should. I've seen a few comments roll by, people questioning whether this is live. It's definitely live. There's just so many comments coming in that we've struggled to keep up with.
Thank you so much. I know
Yes.
we're seeing all the feeds from YouTube, our YouTube channels and Facebook channels. It's amazing to see people tuning in from all over the world. And we know that you are also hyped by Yunchan, but also, questions or commentary about his practice schedule and, how he practices until 4 a.m. and talks about, artists being introverts. I'm an introvert, so I relate to Yunchan in that sense. But, it's just so exciting to see this community come together through this admiration society for Yunchan.
Yes, the Yunchan fan cat. There's another one. He might join us later. We'll see. I thought I would actually take a moment right now to acknowledge something that I often think about when I talk to other people about Yunchan. So many people really stress his age, that he's 18. And I struggle to spend too much time thinking about that because I fear that distracts from his miraculous accomplishments and simply pegs him as this prodigy. And I mean, prodigies, don't get me wrong, are amazing and astounding, and they can often access a technical level beyond their years. But Yunchan certainly has that. But Yunchan has developed a level of musical understanding beyond anything I've really ever heard, and that's. He's not imitating people like you might hear in a prodigy. He's really thinking about every phrase and musical shape. And of course, that sense of timing to die for. And I just, it's like every friend I had kept talking about, I can't believe he's 18, but if he were 70 years old, I'd still say, I can't believe he's 70. Like, it's not about the fact that he's 18. Yeah,
it's ageless and timeless because it's also, we can imagine hearing these performances in 1950 and in 2050. It's that remarkable.
And audiences in 100, 200 years from now, I think are going to be listening to these performances.
They're that
okay. Well, we're going to move on to the final round. Brace yourselves. Here
we go.
Whoops, there was one more interview about improvisation.
It's about his teacher, Min-soo Kim, or actually Min-soo Son, is a great performing pianist himself. What are the most important things you learned from his piano playing?
So Yunchan says, I learned that improvisation on stage is very important. You can change the music freely depending on your condition at that time, not as you practice. It is one of the basics that concert pianists should have. And
it's a lost art for classical musicians.
It does sometimes feel that way. And now, I believe, if I'm correct, we'll move on to the final round.
선생님은 거의 종교라서
Nope.
제가 거의 모든 걸 믿고 있고 수민 선생님도 저를 진심으로 지지해 주시기 때문에.
How old were you when you started to play the piano?
When I was 7 years old.
And how did you come to the piano? Why did you start playing?
Because I love music. So
that's the best reason.
Yes. So I play piano.
How did you? So when you were 7, what did music mean? How did you first connect with music earlier than that? What made you love music?
When I go to the school, my father turned the classical music. For example, Chopin etudes and William Barth. So that music so touching me. So I play piano.
It's a wonderful reason to play. It's not the same Not everybody plays for that reason, but that's the best reason.
Yes.
So we're getting ready for the finalist announcement. Are you thinking about that at all?
No,
Why?
I don't know. I don't know.
Have you imagined what winning's going to be like?
Not idea.
What do you think it'll be like?
It will be good.
Can you tell us how you were able to craft such a cohesive performance with the orchestra with such little time to practice together?
제가 이 위대한 협조 세계를 하면서 제가 먼저 오케스트라 단원분들에게 배우니까 오케스트라 단원분들이 저에 맞춰서 더 음악에 빠져서 연주할 수 있어서
I really, really love that comment about opening his heart to the orchestra. It's so beautiful. And as
Generous.
a member, and generous, as a member of a professional piano duo, that's exactly how you make music together. So now we're backstage before the epic performance of Rachmaninoff's third piano concerto. One of the most epic performances of all time. Today, we're going to show you two short excerpts from the first movement, one excerpt from the second, and two from the third. And I really apologize. We're going to talk over portions of it. You really need to watch it in its entirety. If you haven't, the total impact can really only be experienced by watching the entire thing.
That's right. And it was a legendary performance. It is one of the rare classical music performances that was one of the top most watched videos on YouTube that week. It went viral. Everybody fell in love with this performance.
Yeah,
there's a link there that you should watch on your own.
Yes. At the moment, there's been over 13 or nearly 13 million views. And I also just love all this footage backstage.
Yep. Getting ready.
Earlier, you mentioned he's going to perform this with the New York Philharmonic this week. And I want to read a quote from today's New York Times article about Yunchan. It said, in preparing the concerto's somber opening notes, he said he imagines the angel of death or cloaked figures singing a Gregorian chant. And this is following his teacher's advice. I love how he starts so simply. He's essentially shaping an entire 40-minute concerto into one giant musical wave. Once it starts, there's just no pulling away.
And it's very interior. It's like he's going into the soul of the piece. You know, he's not trying to be outward yet. He's calibrating it. And he achieves pure synergy with the Fort Worth Symphony and Maestro Marin Alsop. It is a magical collaboration.
And I talked about him creating a wave out of the entire piece, but he fills the performance with many smaller waves as well. I kind of say he's like this surfer, catching the biggest and best waves and riding them like a pro. And right here, this excerpt is an example of just one of these waves from the first movement. So we didn't have time to show his cadenza, but it's amazing like everything else. He played the smaller of the two cadenzas written by Rachmaninoff, but he somehow makes it feel more enormous than most performers' interpretation of the big cadenza. We're now in the second movement. And I think, you know, at this point in the piece, he starts to become more vulnerable and emotional.
Sumptuous tone.
He pushes the music so that when he wants, he can take all the luxurious space and it's still holding together as a whole.
One of his gifts is making the music sound inevitable. We know that he's very intentional, but it sounds totally free and improvisatory and organic.
And this isn't even the climax of the second movement, but the climax is the very definition of like beating heartbeats. Oh.
Impassioned.
Impassioned. We're going to move on to the third movement, and I just love the way it starts. Watch Yunchan look at the orchestra here. Yes, it's like a coach to the team. Come on, y'all, we got this. And of course, then
let's see if you can keep up with me.
Yeah, good luck keeping up with me. And they do. Partly because, I mean, it's faster than most any performance I've ever heard, but it feels so comfortable in his hands.
So controlled.
Yeah. And it makes it easier for the orchestra to follow him. It also gives the music this sense of upping the ante. Like, we've reached the third movement, guys.
Yeah. The gear has shifted. There's nothing frantic about it. No struggle.
Already got to the end. Speaking of upping the ante, he's about to shift gears here or dial up to an 11, and it takes my breath away every time.
Right here.
I'm not lying when I say the free zone of all of this is so overwhelming that I often cry.
Yeah, keep in mind that this is like past the half-hour mark. I mean, it's like energy it's like getting more intensified.
It really is.
Always singing lines, you know.
Just gonna share some of the comments.
It goes. You know, we talk about waves and pacing. This is like what makes the finale explode. It's just how all the gradations, building.
It's like galloping on a horse. I mean, I'm just like, yes, somebody.
Yes. Look at Mary. Just like,
Yeah. I'm going to take us off here for a quote with Yunchan and the final of the concerto.
오직 음악을 좋아하는 것, 그리고 헌신하는 마음, 그리고 그 두 가지 같습니다.
I think only two things: love of music and my willingness to devote myself for music.
Look at Maren Alsop. She's crying. I'm crying again.
I'm crying again too. It's hard not to. I mean, the audience's reaction, I mean, the cataclysmic enormity of it all. It's just, oh. And Liz, you were hosting the webcast with Buddy Bray during the final round. And actually, we're going to show everyone your immediate, in-the-moment reactions to this very performance in just a second.
You know, what you and I were just doing, Buddy and I were doing throughout the entire performance.
You were talking to each other?
Oh yeah, and just speechless. He said nothing short of miraculous.
There you hear Buddy say it. Yeah, nothing short.
By the expert.
I love everyone's comments.
Texas audience is most passionate audience in this universe.
I mean, I can barely speak. I was moved to tears. I was
My apologies. I pressed the wrong button. We're live here. Let's find that moment. Thank you. Oops. And
Stratospheric. You talked about creating an atmosphere, and he just, from the very first moment, draws you in. He has this vision of how to create shaping in a microcosmic, but also a macrocosmic manner. It's like he's a magician. He can just conjure whatever he wants, and it just is unfurled with so much nuance and so much. It's like the spellbinding, singular, old soul sort of gifts that he bears, and it's just. I mean, it's literally like. It's like one of those once-in-a-lifetime performances, and I feel humbled and honored that I witnessed that, and I think it reminds us of the power of music and the fact that we all get to hear this. It's like, it doesn't matter in competition, we all get to participate in this beautiful communal experience, and I really feel like he was in communion with something greater. I mean, he actually talked to us after his semifinal round, and he said that he's inspired by the great artists of the past, and that he actually plays sort of in honor of their spirits. And I mean, he was filled with something divine tonight.
Oh, and that beautiful hug. The energy backstage, Liz, you tell me, was incredible.
Yep, this is from my phone. Marin is paying her respects. There was a whole throng of people inside. I got the honor of meeting the maestro Yunchan Lim, and then outside of the hall, it was like a rock star concert. There was throngs of people. I could barely get to my husband's car.
I just wondered, you've got 3 callbacks, you've got a standing ovation, the crowd seemed to love you. How did it feel last night? How did you feel with that incredible reception?
사실은 이 클라이번 콩쿨 모든 무대에 제가 연습했던 거에 한 30%밖에 넘지 않았다고 생각했기 때문에, 왜냐하면 제가 연습 때는 더 잘 쳤었기 때문에, 그래서 굉장히 아쉬운 느낌이 마음 한쪽에 있어서 저는 굉장히 부족하다고 생각하고, 좀 아직도 음악 앞에서는 모두가 학생이기 때문에 제가 어느 위치에 있다고는 생각하지 않고 더 배우고 싶은 마음이 오히려 더 크게 느껴집니다.
What are your career aspirations for the future, and how will winning a medal here help you get there?
저는 약간 다르게 음악만을 위해서 살아왔기 때문에 제 꿈은 사실은 모든 것을 다 버리고서 그냥 산에 들어가서 피아노만 사는 것인데, 그렇게 되면은 제가 수입이 없으니까 어쩔 수 없이 이렇게 하고는 있는데, 커리어에 대한 야망은 0.1%도 없는 사람이고, 저는 이 콩쿠르 나온 이유는 단지 제가 내년에 성인이 되는데, 한국에서 성인이 되기 전에 제 음악이 얼마나 성숙해 있는지 확인해보고 싶어서 나온 거죠. 돈을 벌거나 커리어에 도약을 위해서 나온 것이 아니기 때문에, 저는 이 콩쿨에 등수 상관없이 앞으로 더 공부해야 할 것이 많기 때문에 저는 전혀 상관없다고 생각합니다. 맨날 바뀌는데 오늘은 슈베르트. 귀족한테 후원 같은 것을 받지 않고 자기만의 예술을 개척해 나가는 것이 굉장히 예술적이라고 생각하기 때문에, 슈베르트가 평생 외롭게 살았지만 굉장히 존경스러워서 저도 그렇게 살고 싶어서, 외롭고 싶진 않지만 그렇게 개척해 나가고 싶어서 슈베르트.
Because you are 18, you are still in school, but now you have a career right above you. So how do you think you can balance this?
일단 저는 한참 부족한 학생인데 이런 큰 대회에서 상을 받게 되어서 마음이 굉장히 무겁고 앞으로 더 발전하는 음악가가 되도록 노력하겠습니다.
So I am still a student. This is a great competition, and I feel the burden of receiving this great honorable award. So I will just push myself to measure myself up to the honor that I received today.
I'm curious if there are any collaborations or concert halls or pieces to add to your repertoire that you're really excited about.
오케스트라 부분에 있어서는 저는 불러주시면 감사한 입장이라서 저는 다 좋고 리사이틀은 제가 오래전부터 골드베르그 바리에이션을 하고 싶어서 그 곡을 내년에 꼭 연주하고 싶습니다.
죄송해요. 골드베르그 연주곡 variation. So when it comes to orchestra, whoever's I receive a call, I'd be very grateful and I'd be very happy to collaborate with any orchestra that interests me. Regarding a recital opportunities, I've been wanting to play Goldberg's variations, so that's I really like this
Dimitro, your reaction to that?
Wow, this young man is just incredible. So, chapeau.
crying again.
You know, I feel like I kind of went to church, and it was just such a moving and humbling experience to get to know this young man. I'll quote just from the end of the newest, it just came out today in the New York Times, but at the end of the profile, his humility shines through. He says, "It's a bit hard to define myself as an artist. I'm like the universe before the Big Bang. I'm still in the learning phase. I'd like to be a musician with infinite possibilities, just like the universe." And I mean, we are just so lucky to be alive, to witness his gifts, and to I hope that we will all support him, give him the space that he needs. You know, there's something kind of I almost feel sort of maternal, like protective
Yeah.
over this talent because it's so rare and it's so extraordinary. And you know, I think we all feel so impressed beyond words, but we also have to let him be a human and let him be an artist and to explore and to experiment and you know, to do what he needs to do to stay true to not only his art, but to stay true to his soul. And,
So beautiful.
you know, looking through you and I, Greg, I feel like we really got to know him. You know, we didn't have much of a chance to speak to him, but even just exploring and researching and hearing his music making, I mean, it reveals so much of who he is, and it is just a beautiful honor to be his audience. And we are so happy that you all feel the same.
It really is. I'm once again speechless. Wallace says hi. I'm so touched and moved by this divine soul. I agree with you, Liz. I hope for the best for him. And when he talks about himself as, you know, being before the Big Bang, I'm happy to sit here patiently and see whatever he wants to bring us, because it's obviously coming from such a divine, beautiful place. And yes, we're really so lucky. This
true inspiration.
Yeah, this entire series has been really a joy for Liz and me to put together for you all. We spent a lot of time on it. Please share with your friends. And if you haven't already, watch the first 4 episodes because there are phenomenal pianists in all the episodes. There's so much to learn. I feel like just the act of putting all of this together and editing these videos has just really empowered me myself as a pianist at the piano. I'm practicing more than I have in so long because I'm just so inspired by all of them, and I'm sure you can have the same experience. Please, yeah, share
We
with your
thank
friends.
everyone at the Cliburn, and we thank all of you for tuning in. This is the whole purpose of Two Piano Tuesday, is that we create a community and we can be pianophiles together and celebrate that which is hopeful and inspiring and uplifting in this world. And these artists at the Cliburn 2022 are amongst the creme de la creme and will continue to bring beauty and inspiration and truth to the world through their performances. So be sure to support them. Various artists have social media channels. Obviously, Cliburn.org has a lot of information on the medalists. And don't forget to follow us. We're not just hosts, but we're pianists, and we have some tour dates in Europe this summer and in the States, and also Paris in the fall. So we would love to see you out there. But we don't know when the next Two Piano Tuesday series will happen, but we love having this wonderful online virtual party. It's really, it gives us so much joy. So thank you for tuning in.
Absolutely. And to close, we have a short goodbye vignette we created using many of the interviews from our experience at the Cliburn last summer. So here we go.
Good luck. We really
root
are
for you. Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good.
Woohoo!
Why not? We should enjoy the life.
Perfect. I couldn't have thought of a better way to wrap up this interview. Thank you. Arigato. Yeah, thank you. Bravo. Yeah, you're free.